Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Joe Courtney, how's it going?
Hey, I'm first for once.
Yeah, I didn't even introduce myself.
Well, who are you?
Kyle, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing okay, and I am not offended by my place in the order.
Ashley, how's it going?
Going good.
All right. And I'm Jerred Moon. I'm Ron Burgundy.
Who put a question mark on the teleprompter?
Perfect.
We're starting off great. This is going to get way better, and I'll tell you why, because we're going to be talking about killing comfort today. But before we do that, we're going to jump into updates. Ashley, how's life? What's going on with you?
I'm still on a high from Saturday. Maybe I should let Kyle tell the people why. No, I'm just kidding. We did the Iron Mile. Yeah. And I beat Kyle. It was at a race. Female weight accordingly, obviously. I did not do the 135. I would have died. But I went to the dentist today. They are letting in patients. It's obviously not a full schedule, but you have to check in out in the parking lot. They come, they take your temperature, they ask you a bunch of questions, kind of screen you beforehand, then you go in. But found out something cool. The dentist, I really like her. It's a female dentist, and she, I basically have some clenching issues. And so she kind of asked me a few questions to kind of see is this new? Have you always done this? And then she got down to the root of it, and she's, how was your postpartum healing? I was like, oh yeah, I did have some postpartum depression. Maybe this is, I remember my whole body clenching, lots of things that were physical with it. And so she goes, you could have potentially built in a habit of clenching and not even known it, and you are continuing to do so. So I have a night guard to hopefully help that. But she even talked about if there are points in the day where I don't have to talk, so basically my kids' nap time, put my night guard in and see if I can catch myself clench. So that's my new goal this week, not clenching. So that way, I don't know, that my jaw can give itself a rest.
Yeah, that's intense. That's some intensity you got going on.
Yeah.
Kyle, who's probably clenching his jaw after the loss during the Iron Mile. Wait, I saw you had one more thing on your update, because I kind of wanted to talk about it.
Okay. Well, Scott and so my husband Scott is on the Huel train, and Huel is just, it's kind of, you can put it in a shake, and it's got pea protein in it, and we really love this stuff. And my husband especially, he uses it because when he flies, he doesn't have time to eat real meals, so he hurries up, mixes up some Huel, down some Huel, and it just gives him the carbs and protein and stuff that he needs right then. So we are upgrading, if you will, to the Black Edition, even though it's the same price. It's just more protein and less carbs in the Black Edition. So yeah.
So Huel's like a meal replacement powder. Scott turned me onto it, and so I've been trying it, and I went to the Black Edition. And again, no affiliation with the company, but something I'm using. Scott and Ashley are using. If you guys want to check it out, the ingredients are pretty good, and not everything's organic, and so, which is fine, but that's why the price is where it's at. Because if you were to try and get something like this, everything all organic, it'd be $125 a bag, but it's more whatever, $65 to $75 for a month's supply, which isn't too bad for all it's doing. And I try to only have one powdered drink per day. And so I switched to Huel because it was the calories. I really just needed more calories in my life without having to eat them all, as ridiculous as that sounds. I'm just not a big fan of wasting my time eating things If that makes any sense to anybody.
Yeah.
Kyle?
No.
Makes no sense.
I like to enjoy food. And
Yeah,
nutrition.
I know I'm not normal in that regard. I think, like I've said before, I think my tongue is not doesn't taste things like other people. I don't have a good palate. Like, I don't understand it.
It's okay. We still like you.
Yeah, it's all right. It's also a good, I don't like desserts for that reason and stuff, because whatever. Kyle, life, how's it going?
Life is good. I concede victory to Ashley on our Iron Mile challenge. It doesn't mean that music is better for you on the Iron Mile. That's not what that means. That's kind of where the challenge came from, was to see. But I will say I did still have probably my best Iron Mile ever. And it was the first time I ever did 135, and I surprised myself being able to actually complete it at 135. I'd never done that before.
How many times did you put it down?
0.
Nice.
What?
0.
That's fast.
That's the thing, is that I knew that being out where I was in the neighborhood that I have to walk in, clean and jerking 135 after being tired was not going to be advisable. And so I just kind of locked my hands in place. Like my hands were like, I talked about it on the podcast, my hands get like tingly and stuff and kind of cut off circulation and stuff. And they were kind of fidgety a little bit for a couple hours after I was done. But like, I locked them in place and just went. And cause I was like, I can't put this thing down. So the only way out is forward. So went to a dark place. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And, but I will be victorious next time. Also, I got a haircut this week and I feel like a new man. So,
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing
I think
that.
the haircut's even bigger news than the Iron Mile.
yeah,
in my,
it's big news.
on my scaling.
Yeah, with chapstick and
Yeah, that's your big
Yeah.
news.
Joe, how's life?
It's okay. But I did get in some new gear. I ordered some Under Armour and Reebok this past week or two because I got basically half off on both companies. So that was awesome. Got some new things to try out. Typically, I only wear Reebok shorts. They have like the best shorts to me because of, they have it open so you can squat in them. And then like for my phone, when I go running, they have one pocket, and that one pocket has a zipper, and it's just big enough to fit my phone in. Well, I decided to try out some Under Armour ones because I wanted to get just some new ones, and I tried their running ones. They have a weird front pocket where it's a speed pouch, and it's right there in the front. There's no side pockets, and I have to put my phone sideways, and there's like a stretchy thing that goes over top. Well, running was great. I mean, they're pretty short shorts, and like the phone barely fit in there, but getting the phone in and out was a pain. So what I was doing is all I would do, and I didn't realize this till after I was toward the end of my run, was pull my waistband out a little bit and then change the song. But people around the city will probably just saw me pulling my waistband out and poking down and not knowing there was a phone there. So I might not wear those as running shorts again.
Or just ditch the phone.
You need an
No.
Apple Watch.
No, I do not.
That's awesome.
I'd rather get crazy looks than switch to completely new gear. But the shorts worked that well.
Well, that's
The
great.
best update of all time.
I felt like I had to
It's because of the mental picture.
Yeah, better than a chapstick for sure.
I felt like I had to outdo the chapstick. I don't know what I'm going to do next week. I might just take a break, take a week off.
Oh man.
Jerred, are
guess
you
it-
speechless right now?
I guess it's my turn.
I don't know where we go from here.
Yeah. Okay, so my only update is the book, because my life is the book right now. As crazy as that seems, like between talking about it, reading it, speaking it into a microphone, editing, like not editing the book, it doesn't matter. No one cares. Just there's a lot of book stuff going on, so that's pretty much my life right now. But the story I wanted to tell was the signed copies that we did. See, about a week ago, if you're listening to this on the day it comes out. So, and I already told this story in the Facebook group, but not everyone, gets to see my live videos in the Facebook group. So I did a limited, like, hey, let's do a signed copy thing for Garage Gym athletes. Anybody who is a Garage Gym athlete, you can get a signed copy of the book. I had about 50, 60 books at my house that I could ship out. And I was like, okay, this will probably cover it. Like, not that many people are going to want a signed copy or whatever. And I was way wrong. I was way wrong about that. And so I just want to say sorry to everybody. And here's why. So one, I gave the option for paperback or hardback. The other wrong assumption I made was that most people would want the paperback and not the hardback. Just every bit of me was wrong. Like, I have no book intuition, I guess. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so anyway, I've ordered a bunch more books. So if you ordered a signed copy, just bear with me. It's going to take a while. I'm waiting for the next shipment of books to come in so I can sign and then ship them out. Probably going to throw an extra little surprise in your package if you are going to have a delayed delivery. But anyway, so if you did order one, thank you very much. And I do apologize if they are a little late getting out, but I'll make it up to you. Don't worry. So yeah, that's it. The books are on their way. I'm really excited because it's Monday when this is published. So the book's pretty much out. It's pretty much out. The May 19th is the official date. This is being published on May 18th. You can go buy the book on Amazon everywhere. So go do it. Killing Comfort and Amazon. Grab the book and let me know what you think. And then about a week, the audiobook will be released. And I'll give you guys updates on that.
We all got ours this week.
Yeah, you guys got yours. Oh, and one more update on the audiobook. We talked about, should we do like I read the chapter and then we do like a recap, and we can't do that. So my apologies. And the real reason is actually a huge technical one. Audible has like very strict standards on the audio quality, but like down to a specific bit rate. Look, I didn't know anything about this stuff until I started researching to see if we could actually do it. And we would have to record everything over Zoom or Skype. And that's just no internet quality audio will hit the bit rate that we need to be able to process for Audible. So anyway, I have to read the book by myself, and that will be the audiobook version. Can't bring anyone else on. Even though I would love to do that, we'd have to all be in person to be able to achieve it. So maybe we can update later. Next time we're all meeting up for Spartan Race or something. And
just read your entire book.
No. We'll just talk about each chapter.
We're going to need like a week retreat.
Recap. No, we get it done in a day, just like I thought I could the audiobook. Which
how'd that go?
Yeah, audiobooks are tough. Not even worth it. Not even worth talking about. So today, the topic, we're really just talking about killing comfort today, guys. And so we kind of have a study, but not really in a sense. It's on hormesis. So we're going to be talking about this idea of hormesis, because in the book, I propose 3 different habits I think basically every human should have and participate in every day. One of those being hormesis. And when I use that word, most people don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And I would like for people to know a little bit more about what hormesis is and what the science says about it. So we have, if you're going to talk hormesis, this is the most referenced study. It's a review. It's called Hormesis Defined by Mark P. Matson, and it's by the Laboratory of Neurosciences, National Institute of Aging Intramural Research Program in Baltimore, Maryland. Joe.
Oh, hey. I'll just stop next door and check it out.
Anyway, it was received 2007, published 2008. And the reason I think the published date is important is because of some of the information that's in here that I think is funny. Like if you just hear about something and you're like, oh yeah, that's new and that's cool. It's like, no, it's been around for a while. You're late to the party. So the concept of hormesis, who feels like they can explain hormesis easily? Of you 3. And I'm going to, don't jump at it all at once. Go with Ashley. Okay, Ashley will take a stab at it. What is hormesis for everybody who's now wondering, since I've said it like 10 times? What is hormesis in short?
So I put defined in layman's terms, it means small amounts of something are good, can be very beneficial to you. But if you in turn do that same thing in do it big, a lot of it, I guess, then that can be detrimental and actually be harmful to you. Yes.
So Nietzsche, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. Also, I believe Kelly Clarkson,
absolutely,
the great philosopher, said something similar. And it's just true. That's essentially what hormesis is. And I think anyone who's listening to this, maybe you're not familiar with the term, but you get it. You get it because if you work out, you get hormesis. Like, you get it. Like, if I were to go work out for an hour, a little bit of working out, my body's going to then repair itself. Like, in the moment, working out is bad for you. We've talked about this before. Like, it's just ripping muscles apart. It's breaking things down. Like, it's in the moment of exercise, it is actually bad for you. It's the response, your body's response post-exercise, compensation, super compensation, that makes exercise good for you. It's not good for you in the moment. It's good for you after you recover. And that's where you build stronger muscles. You get more aerobic endurance. So a little bit, good, recovery, great. Now you're better. However, if I were to go run starting now and try to not stop for 72 hours, I might just die. That is a dose that is too high. That's going to break my body down too much, and I will just die. So a little bit, good. Too much, bad, dead. So that is hormesis explained. And I just would love to know what you guys pulled away from this document itself. I have some things I want to talk about. But Joe, what did you think about hormesis in general and this study?
I mostly just looked up into hormesis so I can better grasp it and give examples on it. So I watched some videos on it, and I actually was looking into your book to make sure you didn't have this quote, but I found a really good quote from somebody, a Swedish physician in the Renaissance period. I don't really know how to say his name, but they call him Paracelsus, something like that. But he said, "Poison is in everything, and no thing is without poison. The dosage makes it either a poison or a remedy." And I think that's pretty good for this instance, because of what we talked about with running and fitness and stuff. And I'm going to go with a water example for how water, everybody knows you need to hydrate and you need to drink water, but too much can be bad. And there's people that, this happens in basic training, this happens at sporting events and like Spartan races and endurance events, where people think that they just need to hydrate and drink all kinds of water, but people that ended up dying and even in the medical tent because they're way too overhydrated, because they just kept pumping themselves with water and are like drowning from the inside. So water is good, we need it, but you still have to draw a line somewhere. And some of the examples I saw as well, like I think you talk about with programming sometimes, is just picture either a bell curve or a U-shaped curve or whatever, to where small amount, bad, not enough, right amount, good, and then more than the right amount is also just as bad, is not enough.
Yeah, and what you're talking about in our training is kind of like that graph we have for like sedentary, then like moderately active to our training, and then like CrossFit competitor training 5 hours per day, every day. Like, yes, they're going to be healthy. They might be jacked, but long term, what's that going to look like? Is that going to be, negative or to their detriment? And the answer is most likely yes. Yeah, that's awesome. That's an amazing quote. Wish I would have found it before I published the book.
Yeah, right. It ended.
Kyle, what were some of your takeaways, man?
So I think we actually have another graphic that we've made before that would kind of demonstrate this. The fill in the bucket graphic that we have, where it's got the spigot at the bottom, and the spigot is letting water out of your bucket, and that's exercise and these other things that kind of let water out, and then putting things back in is the way you recover. So the way you eat, the way you sleep, the minerals that you're getting to supplement all those things. So that's kind of hormesis in general. That's what that process kind of looks like. So if you let too much water out of the bucket, that's a bad thing, but letting some of the water out is a good thing. If you replace it too much, put too much water in it until we're flowing at the top, that's also bad. So you want to kind of keep it in the bucket and let out a little bit, and then replace it, let out a little bit, and then replace it. So that's kind of just something else that we've put together in the past that I think illustrates this process. Something we've also covered in the past, it actually wasn't very long ago. We were talking about antioxidants in foods that you eat, things like blueberries, and I think it might have been when we were talking about tart cherry juice.
Yep, chokeberry, the Michigan,
chokeberry in Minnesota. It's Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota, the chokeberry state. That's right.
I remember because I'm the one who found that. Anyway, but we talk about how, and we talked about in that episode, that having too many antioxidants in your system is actually inhibiting your gains, because there's certain inflammation that needs to happen in your body in order for you to make gains, in order for you to get better. And so having too much in there that's blocking all of that inflammation is actually bad for you. You don't want to have too much inflammation, but you need to have a little bit in order to get better. And so that's kind of what hormesis is talking about. We need enough stress to grow, but not enough recovery to set us back. And it's kind of that fine line in between.
Ashley, what did you get from it?
I think I immediately went to nutrition. That's just kind of how my brain was. Some people will tell us, I drink a little bit of alcohol. Is that one glass a night, or do you drink a whole bottle of wine? And, in the night, I think of that. Or, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. You know how people say that it's like a saying. But if I ate 10 to 12 apples, how many carbohydrates, sugars am I putting in my body?
Beatus.
I think it's, do what?
The beatus.
Yeah. But I think it's good with thinking of not just training, not just nutrition, but I think of work life too, your work-life balance with your family. Are you doing too much to where you can't even enjoy time with your family and stress? And you kind of talk about that in the book, which we can get into later. But I think basically what this just points out is that balance is a good thing. And you kind of have to know when too much is too much, but know that when you are putting stress on your body, like training or doing things like, the sauna or fasting or stuff that is going to help you grow in the long run, but you can take those things to the extreme. So you have to know when to dial that all back.
Yeah. And I think that's an important part. So what I love about this study specifically is they have like a graph of like the hormetic factors: lifestyle, exercise, dietary, energy restriction, dietary, phytochemicals, cognitive stimulation. Then they have environmental exposures, toxins, radiation, temperature, water. And then they have the cell stress signaling. So if you do these things, what happens? And then it goes one further. What are the hormetic effectors? So like what happens, antioxidants, all these things. It's pretty interesting, a little bit more scientific, but it's just something that I think the process is what you need to understand, not any of those specific ones. Is like there's the hormetic factor. So what you're doing, your body is going to have cell stress and signal something from that. And then there's going to be a hormetic effect due to that process. And that's essentially how things work. And you mentioned, so you can, here's one thing I love science articles sometimes, because people in nutrition get like all, it's, like vegan is the best, paleo is the best, carnivore is the best. And then they just straight up say, like, they kind of talk about nutrition a little bit, but they're like, yeah, but there's not really any conclusive evidence. The only well-established means of improving health through diet is maintaining a relatively low caloric intake. Like, yes, thank you. Like, and then that's kind of their segue into talking about caloric restriction. And this is going back to 2008 and 2005, 2006 studies that they're referencing. Like we've always known about the benefits of fasting, but it's gained a lot of popularity in the last 2 years, right? But they're referencing studies that were done on fasting and how the hormetic benefits, a long time ago, like 15 years ago in some of these cases. And so, yeah, you can do things like fasting, sauna, so extreme heat exposure, ice baths, extreme cold exposure. But like what Kyle said, too much of the cold exposure we've talked about is a bad thing. Getting out in the sun and getting vitamin D, too much of that give you skin cancer, so on and so forth. So a little bit will make you better. Now, to Ashley's point, how much is too much to where you're burning the candle at both ends? And this is hasn't been studied, but I often wonder, because I fast 16 hours a day, I train, I do the sauna, I do a lot of different things that would be considered hormesis. Like, where's the line where too much is, how much is too much? Like, how much stress is too much? I haven't found that point, because I'm sure my body would start breaking down if I really got to that point. But I think it's something to take into account, because people who are generally interested in health and these types of things want to do everything. I know I'm in that camp. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Ice bath in the morning, get in the sauna after that. Then we'll work out. I won't eat until noon. I'll just let's do it all. But you can go too far and stress your body too much. But I think the concept of hormesis is really cool. And what I'm challenging people to do in the book, now that there's so many different ways, I'm not necessarily saying that you need to work out every day. Obviously, that is our chosen poison at Garage Gym Athlete, is training in the right dose multiple times per week. But if you don't get to train today, and this is the question I ask myself, if for some reason I'm not going to train today, is there other form of hormesis I can practice today, since I know I'm not going to be able to exercise? So maybe if I'm like, oh, I'm not going to exercise, I'll push this fast a little bit longer, or at least I'll be able to get in the sauna, or like, what is the one thing that you can do to still stress your body, have that signaling effect, and then to get better from it? So I challenge everyone to have some form of hormesis in their life every single day. And I think for most of us, that's training. Do you guys feel like you do anything else that's a form of hormesis right now? Anybody fasting still?
Intermittent fasting, I do it all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, so everyone's still fasting. So you guys fasting, training. Yeah, I think that's all. Other than sauna usage, that's the only other thing I'm probably doing.
I've even tried to break my fasting habit on like certain days, but I just can't anymore. Especially for training. Like I've noticed that if I eat anything and then I go train, I probably get more nauseous sometimes. Just my body's fixed but broken.
Sluggish and heavy. Yeah, I agree with that.
No, yeah, I kind of like backed off of the fasting recently, and it didn't go well for me. Which I don't like things like that. Like, did I break myself in the opposite direction? Because we talked about, I started fasting because I had like probably some blood sugar issues, right? And like those kind of resolved themselves when I started fasting, and then I start eating early again, and I'm starting to have issues again. I'm like not shaking or anything. I don't feel right. Things aren't normal. I'm like, okay, well, go back to, I guess I just should always fast. That's what my body wants.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I think is really interesting in this study, they point out that basically every drug you take is a form of hormesis, which I think is, I never thought of it that way, but it's kind of true. Like you take some sort of drug, and I really think of chemotherapy, because chemotherapy I feel like is the definition of this. So like chemotherapy is like trying to kill everything and just like hopefully you survive at the end of it. Like we're going to kill everything with chemotherapy. Hopefully the cancer gets killed and you're alive at the end of it. But then really any other drug is the same way. Like it's a lot of any drug is bad for you, but a little bit is there to help you and assist you. But the most interesting one for me was vegetables. Like too many vegetables. I never thought of that for some reason. Obviously too much of anything is bad, but if you're injecting your vegetables, I feel like that's when it would be possible. Like a lot of smoothies or, juicing and things, you're having too many nutrients. Like there are things in plants that are there naturally to fight off bugs and everything else. And if they're not good for you either. So if you have too much of them, it's going to be bad, but at the right dosage, they're good, which is like an annoying equation because you don't actually know what the dosage is for any of this. So good luck, everybody. I'm kidding. It's pretty standard stuff. Eat some vegetables, chew them, don't always drink them, work out an hour a day, fast as needed. Cool. All right, you guys want to get into the book?
Let's do it.
So we're talking about a book today called Killing Comfort, the Overlooked Prerequisite to Extraordinary Results. I did write it and forced everyone on the team to read it. So now we get to discuss it.
Undo our head.
They actually, it was their idea. Like, I was just like, hey, we should do the book. So, okay. What I wanted to actually read, I'm not going to actually read it, but I'm going to,
you're not over reading it?
No, I have the unpublished prologue. So this was going to go in the book, but I didn't put it in the book. And I was going to actually read it for you guys, but I'm not, because it's not super polished. But I wanted to talk about how I did everything in my power to not write this book. Like I really tried for a long time to not write it, because writing a book is a complete distraction to like everything else. And so I'll just put this in perspective. So Garage Gym Athlete, I hired a publishing team, marketing team. Like there were a lot of people working on that book, and it cost a lot of money, and it did really, really well. Like I was competing. I beat out Kelly Starrett. We released books the same week. I beat Kelly Starrett in sales. The only person who ended up beating me after a couple of days was the book Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, which is like still an extremely popular book. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to say like that the book didn't help the company that much. And to be honest, it didn't make that much money. Like, people think that that's why you do these things. Like, you're writing a book to publish it to sell 1 million copies and make all this money. And that's not realistic. Like, it's just not. The only people who are really truly living off of book publishing are the 0.001% of authors, the ones that we all know and could name right now. They are doing it, but no one else is. And so that's why I tell you the success of the Garage Gym Athlete book, if I were to try to live off that alone, we'd be living in a cardboard box on the side of the street right now from Garage Gym Athlete book sales. And that book is doing better than 96% of most authors out there. So just to put that in perspective, that's not why you write a book, if anyone's thinking about doing it. So I tried really hard because I already knew that. I was like, Killing Comfort probably won't even do as well as that book. And I don't want to do it. It's going to be a distraction for you guys. Like, it's going to take you away from some of the things that you're doing. It's a distraction for me leading the team. It's a distraction from Garage Gym Athlete. So anyway, I tried really hard to not write it. And the harder I tried, the more I felt like I had to. And that kind of plays into the idea of Killing Comfort. I was like, look, you have this idea. You need to get it out there. So let's just like buckle down and do it. So with all that, I tried really hard not to write it, ended up killing the comfort, wrote it. I'm still in a very uncomfortable situation getting this book out there at the time of recording this, but it's going to be all out there. And I'm really glad that it is. I'm really proud of the work I've created. And the only reason I did it is to try and help people in the process of them reading it. That's like the true reason, as altruistic as that sounds, and you may or may not believe it, it's 100% true. Like, I did it for more of a legacy type thing. It's something my kids can have, or like when I die, my grandkids could be like, oh, this is an interesting book Grandpa wrote. Like that, those are like the only real reasons behind me writing a book like this, and very little to do with the business at all. So with that, I'd love to kind of get everyone's thoughts, because we haven't discussed the book at all in team meetings or anything, because you guys recently finished it. Or most of the way. So, Joe, what were some of your takeaways from the book?
Oh boy. So there's one quote we got kind of advanced slight copies of it months ago because of just happening with edits and stuff. But there was one quote that I remember that I pulled out as I was going through that I just really liked, and probably good to start with. And that is, when you kill comfort, you don't change your ecosystem changes around you. I thought that was really good, because when you're trying to make your changes, you're not just forcing changes around you. You're making little subtle changes, and then things around, and then all of a sudden, weeks down the road, you notice so many things have changed around you. It's not just like you're cleaning house and everything is abrupt and you're starting now. And that kind of ties right into the Daily Over Decades. I'm not sure what section of it was in, but it just reminded me of that. And Daily Over Decades is something that I've always liked. And you didn't necessarily invent that people have been talking about that for a long time, or call it like the 1% rule or something like that, to where you're just fixing 1% little by little. And then all of a sudden, as time passes, you look around and you're completely different, completely new. And the impact that has is pretty phenomenal. So that's one of the really, really good ones I like to take away with.
Yeah. And I think, I actually wrote that sentence, and actually a very, very long time ago, because a lot of people think that improving themselves in one shape or form is like self-centeredness, and like, especially when you have a family, when you have kids and stuff, spending time on self-development can seem like you're taking time away from the family. And people say that often. And so they think when I'm pushing this, like, make yourself better, get better, do these things, I'm not saying that to the detriment of your family, but you going into the gym and being without your family for an hour to work on yourself, or waking up early, to read a book or take a course and to make yourself better, you're not sitting around trying to like make your family life better. You're not like, focusing on your kid and being like, hey, do these things to be better, or like trying to help your wife get better, or trying to help your family members get better. You're kind of just like leading by example, right? You're doing all these awesome things that are improving your life, and thus it improves everyone's life around you. And I think that's the concept that I want people to understand, is that you have to have some sort of better human practice, some way to make yourself better, and don't worry about what's going to change. Things will change the more you do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else from you, Joe?
Yeah. I mean, we can keep going around, but I also wanted to, prosperity was also something that I liked to combine as well with the Daily Over Decades. But I also liked it because you pulled something from what Ben Bickman said, who was one of our more popular guest on the Better Humanology podcast, and he was awesome. And he talks about the plagues of prosperity and how just that concept is pretty interesting to highlight, and how like that we've gotten so comfortable and things have gotten so easy, and so many easy buttons have actually been a detriment to us over time. And I think if you are looking for little ways to improve, you can combine your daily over decades with getting rid of some of these plagues of prosperity to make things a little bit harder, but a little bit better for you. And I mean, kind of an example is I think of nutrition, and how, a lot of people want to go on these fad diets. So they're going to buy all these products with the title of said fad diet on these products, but it's filled with so much other crap that you're really not doing much of anything. You might be doing worse for yourself because you're buying this, but you think, oh, I'm doing good because it's, it says it's paleo or it says it's vegan, but you're really not. So one thing for that is just like, get rid of these, marketing buzzwords, things that you're putting in your body, and just actually do simple stuff. So that's just one little example for how to combine some of these for an application wise.
Yeah, he inspired that. So I have an entire chapter on prosperity and how that makes us too comfortable. And that entire chapter was inspired from my conversations with Dr. Ben Bickman. So if you guys want to go back and listen to those on the Better Humanology podcast, definitely do. He labeled them the plagues of prosperity. And I just think it's so true. Like, we have all this stuff that makes us makes our lives easier, but it's also killing us at the same time. Kyle, what'd you think, man?
Well, I thought it was really good overall. Actually, something that you're going with what you're talking about there, the plagues of prosperity. In the book, I think I remember you saying something about how older generations are able to are more mentally tough because they didn't have as much prosperity back in the day, and they were just forced to make hard choices and kind of kill comfort because that's really the only choice they had. And it just makes me think of like exactly what you're talking about with older generations. Like my grandfather, before he passed away, he lived for the last several years of his life. I think like at least 3 or 4 years of his life with one lung, and it's because he had black lung from working in coal mines. And so he had to have a lung removed, but like he lived for several years, which was much longer than they expected him to live. But he lived for several years with one lung, you know what I mean? And it was like, it's because he was tough, you know what I mean? He was just tough, and he wasn't held down by these kinds of easy buttons like you're talking about. This stuff, the world that he grew up in was a lot tougher, and you had to be tough to make it. And I just think about those kinds of people. It's just they're not hard to kill because they train that way. They're hard to kill because they live that way. You know what I mean? It's just the way that they came. And he was just tough, and that made me think of that as well when I was reading that chapter on prosperity. But one thing that I think a lot of people might be kind of taken aback by is one of your chapters, chapter 9 in leadership, where it's talking about participation trophies. And it's a bit of a controversial topic.
I have a very contrarian view to
yes.
I was debating myself in my mind as I was reading this. It was probably the slowest chapter because after every couple of paragraphs, I was just like, I was going back and forth with myself.
But I like the idea, and I like what you presented here about celebrating the effort, celebrating the work and being happy with that, being happy with the work that you're putting in effort into doing something. And, you say something, I'm going to spoil it for those of you who haven't read it yet, but it says, are you currently collecting a paycheck from somewhere and aren't number one in sales, in production or whatever? Aren't you still showing up every day and putting in the work and providing value? So it's like, you're not number one at your company, at your job. You're not the best at what you do, but you still go in and you do it. And
you get a paycheck.
And you get a paycheck.
You get your participation trophy every month for doing the work.
Yeah. And it's the same. You go on, you say, are you working out every day, but not winning a gold medal in the Olympics, or are you running every day, but you're not first place in a 5K race, when you show up and do it. And it's like, you're still participating. You're still putting in the work. You're still putting in the effort, and you're still not coming in first. Does that mean that you just give up? You know what I mean? And you just don't do anything? No, that's crazy. And no one would support that. No one would support, well, you're not number one in your company, so you should just quit and go find another company where you can be number one, or start your own. Yeah. Start your own business where you can be the only one, so you can be number one. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you have to work. You have to put in that effort. And so it's definitely a challenge to my way of thinking on, that participation trophy thing. Because that's the point you make, is like, we say participation trophies are bad because it doesn't reflect real life. But you're like, but you show up and aren't number one and you still get a paycheck. You're not the best, but you still get a paycheck. So do you need to throw that paycheck in the trash, because you're not number one?
You're not number one.
No,
Yeah.
that's not what you're going to do, and no one would, or well, I don't know, maybe some people would argue that you should, but that's crazy. You still need to show up and celebrate the effort and celebrate the work. And that really challenged my way of thinking on that.
Yeah. So spoiler alert, I am pro, in a sense, participation trophies, or let's just say I'm not against them. And this is very contrary. I would say most of the book, if you just like the title Killing Comfort, you'll like a majority of the book. This is the only one that'll probably push and challenge you, because almost everyone, I don't know anyone else who's like, and I'm not just trying to take a contrarian view. If you go to back to the Better Humanology podcast, I think within the first 10 episodes, we talk about participation trophies. So we're talking 2015. I had this idea of like, if you're complaining about people in participation trophies, one, you lack leadership, because if you have a bunch of employees and you're like, oh, they're all like, they've been coddled by their parents and they're, all these things, like, you need to learn how to lead better if that's your current staff. Congratulations. Don't complain about the problem. Like, figure out how to fix it. So become a better leader. And two, it's just not reality. And so I'm glad I have this platform that is a book to express or, vent, make my argument, my case for these participation trophies. But I do think if someone just gets a participation trophy, that it could be bad. So the big piece in that chapter is you have to explain what a participation trophy means to help a child perceive it the way it should be perceived, because most people out there, I would say most everyone listening to this, is not winning. And by winning, I mean number one at whatever the hell you're doing. Like, I don't have the business as big as I would like to. How do I win business? Do I have to beat Jeff Bezos, Amazon? Like, is that how I win business? Like, I don't know how you win business. It's the same with work. Like, I'm not number one. Am I still okay with the size of this business and what we're doing? Yeah. It's great, but I'm not winning. I'm not beating Jeff Bezos. So I guess I'm technically still a loser. I'm still okay with having the business though. And I think I always see, and that's when I started to get disgusted with actually seeing guys on Facebook and all these things, like, their kid would get a participation trophy or medal for having played, 19 games of soccer and showed up to all these practices. And then that at the end, there's this little ceremony, they get a participation trophy, and the dad's like ripped it right out of his hand and let him know there are no participation trophies in this house. I'm like, great work. I can't wait to see what your kid thinks of you when he's 25, and he has those memories, looking back. There's nothing wrong with a participation trophy. The only thing that's wrong with it is perception. So if you did get a participation trophy and your perception is that everything should be handed to you in life, yeah, that's a problem. But if you put in the work, you showed up to every practice, you're trying hard, that's about the only message there is for life, right? Like, that is life. Show up and try hard, then die. That's it. That's the formula. But yeah, I can get real heated on that one. So I appreciate you bringing it up.
Absolutely.
Ashley, what was your favorite part?
I don't know if I should follow that. I have a few chapters, so I'll save the best for last because that's been my favorite so far. But chapter 5, prosperity, we've all kind of talked about it. You talked about depression and you talked about the use of devices and how that has actually hindered the depression and people who are suffering with it. And I just immediately went back to my own depression the few months that I had postpartum and how I had to disconnect. Like, I just had to get off of social media because I would see other people that were thriving and doing well. And I would, look at that and then in turn critique myself going, why am I not being a good mom? Or why am I not happy every day like all these people are? Which again, social media is, you're getting the good parts of people's lives. It's not real life, right? So I really enjoyed that chapter and talking about too, like ways of how to get out of depression. You also talked about movement and training, and that is definitely when I noticed a huge difference as well. And medicine helped, but I like to think all the other things that I did definitely helped as well. And then let me see, chapter 8, your mindset. We've been talking a lot about inner chatter, self chatter. We talked about it a few weeks on the podcast, and how I think it was a team you used in your book, and how every time they had a negative thought about themselves. So, if they thought, oh man, I didn't do so great on that set or that rep or whatever it was, they had to change it into a positive thought. And I think that is huge, especially with us training in our own space. Sometimes I feel like I'm speaking for myself here. I feel like I can get critical of myself. Like, you could have done that faster, or you could have done that better. And so I think that if you can change that mindset, you change your whole perspective, and that in turn flows down to the rest of the way you live your life. And so I really enjoyed that chapter as well. And then my favorite chapter of the whole book, and I'm almost done with it, I haven't read it all, is chapter 13, Live in Balance. And I'm just going to read something from page 134, if you don't mind that I do. But I love this quote. It's, rather than aiming for perfection, aim for as many points as you can each day. And you're talking about the E3 elements here. Over time, this game will transform into a habit. Once these habits become a part of who you are, your life will dramatically change. And I think that is a huge takeaway, not just for Garage Gym Athlete members and our EO3 elements. I think it's for everyone. Anyone that reads this book, there's going to be so many takeaways that you can just apply into your life. Small change that will be incremental and explode if you continue to stick with it, which is what I loved about this book. You didn't just say, the world is lazy, and I don't know, you didn't just complain, and you gave people applicable things that they can use in their life. So for everyone who is listening, go get yourself a copy of this book. You will not be disappointed.
And I will say caveat to that, because I've read a lot of this book would definitely fall in the category of self-development, self-improvement.
Right.
I've read a lot of those, and what they typically do is they have a big idea, and then they just try and prove that point over and over. You could honestly get it after like 2 or 3 chapters. Not really what I did, and there's almost too many tactical things for you to do. Like, I have a process and a 3-step this, and like for everything, because that's how my brain thinks. And so don't get overwhelmed when you're reading it. Just dive into the parts that you feel like you can actually apply, because there's almost an application step to every part. And if you don't have to apply every part, just apply the parts where you feel that you need the most work. And I think the one of the biggest takeaways I want people to get from the book is not just getting uncomfortable, is this. I talk about it multiple times. I talk about towards the end of the book, the beginning of the book, is just, and you talk about it a little bit actually with the internal chatter, but the mind is so powerful. I go over like scientific studies and like everything else, and everyone knows this, like everyone knows it, but no one does anything about it. And this is what blows my mind, is like, if I ask anybody, hey, what's your mental training program right now? I don't think anybody would be like, oh yeah, here's what I do on a daily basis to improve my mental state. And I don't know why. that is the case. Like, I could give you scientific study, and the only thing I can like come to the conclusion is that people think it's weird, right? Like, it's like, that's weird. I'm going to, sit around and talk about how awesome I am or think positive thoughts. For some reason, in spite of mounds of scientific research and evidence, like the one study you're talking about, not only were their physical performance markers better, all of their blood markers were better from positive self-talk. Like, are you kidding me? And none of us do it. Like, none of us do, and I'm at fault too. Like, I go on and off of like having some sort of mental practice where I'm like actually trying to improve my mentality. Like, I do that a lot in the mornings, like when I'm as part of my morning routine, like that's something I'm trying to do, but it falls on and off of my habit list. And I just don't know why that is. We like feel like it's not important. And I feel like some of the stuff used to, like, I don't know, maybe in 1950s, if I was like, yeah, sit around, do this, people would be like, okay, that's weird. But now we have the science backing it up. It's like, you can actually lower your cortisol, lower your resting heart rate, improve your strength, like improve your relationships through these like proven, mindset work methods that you can do. And people just still won't do it. I know people will read the book and they still won't do it. So I want to encourage everyone to just do it. It really can improve your life. And don't just watch exciting YouTube videos that say, the mind is a powerful thing. And it is. You're like, no, do something. Like, have a program. Like, be different than everyone else. Does anybody have anything else about the book in general?
I think part of what you're saying there is part of the reason that it's hard for people to make that a habit is people are not used to pausing. And we're kind of, we got a lot of gurus out there that are telling us, you got to hustle, you got to go hard, all that kind of stuff. And people are not used to like taking time, and it's like this whole working on yourself business. You need to spend time with you. And I think a lot of people are probably more scared to spend time by themselves than they are to spend time with anybody else. They don't want to look in that mirror. They don't want to spend time with just themselves, and it just scares them. And so they would rather just distract themselves with a lot of other things that make them feel productive and make them feel, happy about what's going on, instead of actually really drilling down and doing what needs to be done to be successful. And I think that's for me, that's probably one of my biggest hangups is eliminating distraction and just being by myself. So
yeah, we're never by ourselves, right? Because even if you're alone, you're like, oh, good, phone time, and something I wanted to challenge. So here's a tactical thing. I started doing this, I don't know, maybe about 10 days ago, because I just found out that you found out or remembered. I feel like I knew this, found out you could. So I'll show you guys my phone right now.
Oh, please not red dots.
Nope.
I can't see them, but.
Can you see the color of my phone?
Like
black and white?
It's all black and white. So I have the iPhone. You can go into the settings and change it to where your whole phone is black and white. So I pull up Instagram, like here's Instagram. It's just like, it's all black and white. Everything's black and white on my entire phone. There are no colors to anything. So red notifications, not a thing. They're black and white. There's a lot of them. They're big counters, but they're on there. Anyway, our phones stimulate the crap out of us. And so I'd like to challenge anyone because most likely you're not going to get rid of your smartphone. Like, that's probably not going to happen. But I would challenge you to do a 7-day. You can look it up, like how to change my iPhone black and white. I'm sure Android phones can do this too. 7-day challenge. And what I found is my phone is so uninteresting, black and white. Like, it really is. Like, you open up Instagram and I'm like, this is dumb. Like, because those photos were not meant to be black and white, And so it really changes the usage of your phone, and you feel less stimulated. And so you don't want to use it as much. So I would challenge everyone as a tactical thing to try. If you are having problem pausing, like Kyle was talking about, and you want to kind of get off the device, like Ashley was talking about, like, try that. That's a small step. It's not in the book, just something I decided to try, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, colors do. I think there's even been classes in college that are like psychology of colors and how they control and why colors are chosen. But I don't know if I'd want to feel like I'm living in a 1930s noir film.
Yeah, and then, app makers know everything you're talking about for colors, and they're trying to make contrasting colors and notifications and all these things so it gets your attention. You're not getting anybody's attention. Like, my phone's so boring right now, I don't even pick it up. It's like, this thing is dumb. Anyway.
I mean, you weren't on it that much before anyway, as your red notifications would show.
Yeah, I don't know why I even keep it around. But yeah, okay, workout. The Killing Comfort book, it's out now. Go get it. The best place is really going to be Amazon, and then Audible next week if you're looking to do the audio book. So you can get the digital copy, the paperback copy, hardback. I don't know if it's available right now, but should be soon. And like I said, then you can get the audiobook later. If you want to hear more of this voice stumbling through an audiobook, no, it's not bad, not too bad. You can get that.
Sultry sounds of
Jerred Moon.
Yeah. All right, the workout this week is MURPH. We all know it because it is around Memorial Day. That's why the workout is a lot of people are going to be doing MURPH all around the world. So if you're not familiar, it is in memory of Michael P. Murphy. He was a Navy SEAL. Don't ever forget to say Navy SEAL, or people will rip your freaking face off.
Yep.
So yeah, and So anyway, Lieutenant Michael P. Murphy, was a SEAL, and he died in Afghanistan in 2005. He used to do this workout. It was called Body Armor, and then it's transitioned to being called MURPH, named after him. CrossFit Incorporated named that. Specifically, I think his buddy Dave Castro, who's also Navy SEAL, is the one who named it. And the workout is run 1 mile, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, run 1 mile. Wear a vest if you have it, and you can partition the reps. You can partition the reps. You can partition the reps. Okay, said it. You can partition the reps however you want. Things I just want to get off my chest right away with this workout. You can do it strict or kipping, and you can partition the reps. Did I say that yet?
I don't think so.
Okay. A lot of people like to they like to fluff out their chest about the hardest way to do MURPH. And I've done MURPH 3 times in a row with a vest on. I've done it twice with a 40-pound vest on. I know how hard MURPH can be. And the hardest version of MURPH is going to be the fastest version of MURPH. Mm-hmm. And the fastest version of MURPH is run as fast as you can, do 20 rounds of 5, 10, 15 partitioned, and then run a mile as fast as you can. Every other way I've done it, the unpartitioned, they're strict. All these other things, they're great. They're not as challenging because they're just not as fast. It's physics. The more work you can do in less time, the more work you're going to produce. So that's what I have to say about MURPH. I could talk about some actual tips, which I really only have one, but I'll throw you. Joe, I did not see your note in there. Did I already do it all for you?
You kind of took the wind out of my sails.
Oh, I'm so sorry, man. You and I are on the same boat because I think you and I have both been getting that crap for so long on MURPH. But if you have anything I missed, man, go ahead.
Yeah. So if I'll let you guys do the tips, because if you haven't heard us talk about MURPH before, then welcome. You've probably only been here for 2 weeks. Yeah, we talked about it so much, but I wanted to address the you can partition, because we've actually had an athlete who wrote a letter to MURPH's dad, and he said that MURPH partitioned it, so it's fine. And just because something takes longer, if you're unpartitioning, then that doesn't make it harder.
And that athlete was Lisa Kelly, and you can listen to her Garage Gym Athlete interview on this podcast feed.
Yeah. And a lot of people will rebuttal with, well, that's what they did in the CrossFit Games. Like, yeah, well, they did it, once or twice, but in the years before that, they did it partitioned. And you also got to remember, these are elite athletes, so they're trying to make everything much harder for them. And doing it unpartitioned makes it a little bit lower intensity, and they're doing 4 high-intensity workouts.
I'm pretty sure in the games, they partitioned it too. They just partitioned it into 5 rounds.
And the second time, the first year, no, they did it all strict and all.
First year was all strict, and then second year was partitioned. Mm-hmm. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so that's the main things.
That's why those first year times were so shitty. Like,
yeah,
I remember when I didn't watch the games. I just remember seeing the times, and I was like, I think like the top time was like 38 minutes, and I was like,
and lots of people
I could do that on a bad day. Like what?
Yeah. They suffered from the heat, something too. Like people got like heat stroke and all sorts of stuff. Like I think it was Cara Saunders. I forget who it was. They had to like take her away, and Annie Thor's daughter. And
it was like 78 degrees in San Diego.
Yeah, it was like the second or third day that we work out of that day too.
It was hot, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hot day in San Diego. Okay, cool. So yeah, definitely address the haters there, Joe. You have anything else?
No, tips we've already said a lot. I mean, you can just Google MURPH and like Endo3 Fitness, and you'll get a bunch of articles and past episodes if you really want to deep dive.
Yeah, if you really want to deep dive, I've done it. Kyle, what are your tips for this one, man?
Really kind of only have one tip. Like Joe said, we've talked about it a lot. We've covered it a lot. I would just say this workout is almost infinitely scalable. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, and there's different ways to do your push-ups. There's different ways to do your pull-ups. You don't have to wear a vest if you don't want to. You can wear a heavier vest if you want to. Just find a way to do it. Find a way to get the work done, and just have fun with it.
Ashley, I'm sorry. I could go on. Like my brain's just like running in circles on like the negative commenters and people who like. Anyway, Ashley, what are your tips for the workout?
Well, we're going to change our talk here, and we're going to go positive.
Yeah, so. I'll go positive too. There we go.
My tip is just remember why you're doing this workout, and what Memorial Day stands for, and why we actually have a day off. We, you see people post that all the time. But my thing is, I always talk about when I am doing this and I'm starting to get tired or I'm stuck. I always, I actually pray a little bit and talk to God and just say, thank you for giving me the air in my lungs right now, that I'm feeling pain. I'm not getting shot at, that I'm alive. So just kind of put that into perspective. And then for this, I agreed with Kyle. Grind. This workout hurts, but keep going. This will be my first vested MURPH since 3 years ago when I did it with Jerred in Texas, which is crazy to think about because I got it the year after. So I definitely did not do a vested MURPH then. So my tip for tunes, because always tunes for me, is I listen to EDM because it helps me just kind of keep a good pace, and I will be partitioning and breaking up some reps. So,
That was kind of on the grim side of positive.
No, it's not. I said I pray. I talked to God. How is that even negative?
It was more
Pray you're
positive
not
than
getting
addressing
shot
the haters.
at.
Just saying.
So my only tip for the workout is typically in the squats, because if you haven't been training the mile, I can't just say, hey, run the mile faster. That's how you get a faster time, is you run the miles faster, but you can't just tell someone to do that. It's like telling someone to be taller. So what you really can do is squat faster. Kyle gave me a weird look, but I'm saying, like, if you haven't prepared to improve that mile time, you're not going to improve it on MURPH day. Like, that's not where you get a faster mile time. But the place that you could improve in the workout that you're probably slacking are how fast you're doing your squats. That is where it's 300 squats. It's a lot of repetitions. And if you are cycling through those slowly, it's going to add a lot of time. So go faster in the squats. Just make it uncomfortable until you feel like you absolutely have to stop. Maybe stop for a second and then go back to that pace. But don't get complacent and start thinking about what's for lunch, what's going on later. Think about squats and how fast the squats need to be. And that is the hardest place. And it's taken me 200 MURPH workouts to realize the fastest times I have are the ones where I'm the most focused. And I'm talking about 100% focused on every single repetition I'm doing. My mind does not wander, and I'm just in it the entire time. That's how you get sub 30 times. And it's painful just as much mentally as it is everything else to not let your mind go anywhere else and to only think about the workout and what you're doing right this second. So go faster on the squats and then dial in your mental fitness there. This year I'll be going vested, but I'm also going full uniform with a buddy. So stripped down uniform OCPs in boots and long pants, long sleeves. So that'll be the first time I've ever actually done it in uniform.
With Ben?
And with Ben, yeah. Ben and I will be doing it in uniform. So that's going to be painful. It's going to be hot.
It's going to hurt.
And I'm going to be running in boots. So
get that liquid chalk.
We'll see how it goes. But I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be a good one.
One new thing that I have to tell myself, actually, that I realized because I just did MURPH a couple weeks ago for fun of it. And I need to do it next time not fasted, because I found out that right at the halfway mark, at about the 10 rounds, but halfway through the cals, I was talking to Jerred about, is that I started to get nauseous. And I think because maybe my glycogen stores or something was depleted and my energy was trying to change over. And those like halfway into to the cals, I was nauseous for a little bit, and my times per round went down a good bit until things settled and switched over, and then I started back up again. So I need to do that because that made a huge impact on mine, and it's happened in the past as well.
You could also, thinking about that, if you want to start fasted and then those those Cliff cubes that we had during the Spartan race, if you after the mile take 2 of those, that might be enough to get you through the rest of the workout. You don't need a ton of sugar, but just something to throw in there. My fastest times, which is funny, is all my PR times, because I tracked it, they were fasted. So
I think I've only ever done MURPH fasted.
I don't know what's up with me recently.
I mean, there's the old story of the chicken and waffles MURPH PR that we have. Chicken and waffles MURPH PR is number 7 now on the PR list. So it is not. That was a fluke. It is not something that
number 1 in our hearts.
Yeah, number 1 in our hearts. But I did have chicken and waffles and PR'd MURPH once, but that has fallen down the ladder of my PRs significantly. So fasted has taken the lead. All right, guys, that's it. I'll just leave you with really the book. If you have been listening to the podcast, you enjoy kind of the mentality around here and things that we talk about, definitely go snag a copy of Killing Comfort, paperback, digital, audiobook next week, whatever it is. Would greatly appreciate that. And then if you do want to dive into our training, go to garagegymathlete.com and sign up for a trial. We'd love to have you as a part of the community. But that is it. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.